Hello everyone, and welcome to today's board meeting. I am Michael De Silva, Chief Information Officer, Prosperity Insurance. I would like to start today's proceedings by putting forward a project proposal which I believe will revolutionize the way we do business and thereby give us a strong competitive advantage in the insurance industry. Leading from the seminar I attended on cloud computing a few weeks ago, I have put together a business case that hopefully will be successful in obtaining your approval. The overview of our discussion today is as follows. First, we'll look at the purpose of the presentation and the main objectives. Then I will give you an introduction to cloud computing, where we will look at the services offered and characteristics of the technology. Following this, I will touch on the main advantages and disadvantages and move on to highlighting some of the risks as well as the infrastructure that is required for us to implement same. Next, we will look at the success stories of other companies and specifically some of the insurance companies that have adopted the technology, and we'll also look at the best practices for managing a cloud environment. Then I will briefly touch on the all-important financials of the project along with the conclusions and recommendations. Finally, I will briefly touch on the key learnings from my research. Let's begin by looking at the purpose of this presentation. The purpose is to introduce to you the concept of cloud computing and demonstrate how adopting this technology at Prosperity Insurance will improve the efficiency, effectiveness, and productivity of the customer relationship management function. Based on the purpose, the main objectives that we wish to achieve or that I wish to achieve through this presentation is as follows. The first objective would be to help you understand the technology and its importance to Prosperity Insurance, to identify the benefits of adopting cloud services, assess the major risks involved, determine the financial viability of the project, and finally to seek your approval to fund the project. Now tell me, ladies and gentlemen, what is cloud computing? The National Institute of Standards and Technology defined cloud computing as a model for enabling ubiquitous, convenient, on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources such as networks, servers, etc. that can be rapidly provisioned and released with minimal management effort or service provider interaction. Now I know this might sound a little too technical for those of us who are not familiar with this concept. Therefore, in more simpler terms, what cloud computing means is storing and accessing data and programs over the internet instead of your computer's hard drive. Basically what we're talking about is virtual servers which are available over the internet. Now the diagram on the top right of your screens is an illustration of what I've just said and the definition which I just gave you. Hopefully this will give you a more clearer understanding of what cloud computing is. Now let's take a look at the services that are offered through cloud computing. There are three broad categories of services: software as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. Software as a service is basically where apps or software are stored in the cloud and delivered to the user via the internet on demand. Platform as a service provides app and software developers with an internet-based platform to host their programs. Here they avoid having to create their own cloud. And finally, infrastructure as a service is where cloud service providers invest and maintain the infrastructure such as data centers in order for cloud users to utilize the services in exchange for a fee or rent. Moving on to the characteristics of cloud computing: on-demand self-service, broad network access, resource pooling, rapid elasticity, and measured service. Now I won't delve too deep into these characteristics as we will cover them as we go along the presentation today. Now let's take a look at the pros and cons of cloud computing. Let's start with the advantages. The main advantage that companies can experience is reduction in capital and operational costs. There's no investment required for data centers. It's a pay-as-you-go or grow model, which means you don't need to invest in expensive software licenses. And according to a survey conducted by Forbes.com, 73% of the companies surveyed have claimed that they have reduced their IT infrastructure costs. To add to that, Chief Technical Officer of IBM claims that by adopting cloud, they have been able to reduce their IT labor costs by 50%. Improved functionality is another advantage. Basically, this is an increase in productivity and efficiency. Your employees are able to telework, gone are the days where you need conventional offices for people to come and sit down and carry out their work. Here, while they're on the go in their homes or while even doing their shopping, they will be able to assist and deal with your customers. Therefore, our business is agile. We can access data anytime, anywhere, on virtually any device. Other advantages include improved security, and also it's environmentally friendly, and cloud computing is very much in keeping with the latest trend of green computing, where it's environmentally friendly. There's low energy consumption, it reduces our CO2 emissions, and it aligns perfectly with our company's CSR outlook. Moving on to the disadvantages, dependence on a stable internet connection can be seen as a limitation, however not of major concern. Field sales staff may face difficulties while on the move, especially in rural areas where internet coverage is underdeveloped. The potential outages and downtime is a more serious disadvantage, as there is a potential loss of revenue and customers if the service is unavailable. This also impacts the company image and brand equity. One such example is where Amazon lost 5 million in revenue when its homepage went offline, just for 3 hours, mind you. The main disadvantage, however, is since our cloud solutions are exposed to the internet, it is more vulnerable to attack from hackers. So therefore, we need to be very mindful of this particular concern when entering into or adopting a cloud solution. Now let's take a look at the associated challenges and risks when implementing a cloud solution. Data security and privacy is a major concern given the line of business we are in. Therefore, the greatest challenge we have in adopting cloud technology would be to ensure that this information is not compromised in any way. I guess this is the biggest risk that we face as well. Further, verifying the authenticity of cloud service providers is another challenge on our hands. And to add to that, we need to also ensure that the service provider stores this information in accordance to the requirements prescribed by the regulators. Next, the lack of integration between services offered by cloud solutions could prevent us from leveraging the full potential of process efficiency, data accessibility, and business partner integration when we adopt a cloud solution. Also, moving data from our present servers to the cloud could also pose a problem or a challenge because of the internet bandwidth limitations that we are faced with. And finally, interoperability between clouds. Combining the functionality of different clouds to offer improved or new services may be difficult, and the lack of standardization could stifle the ability to maximize scalability, which is promised by cloud computing. Looking at the infrastructure required, the good news is that we can capitalize on the existing infrastructure that we currently have. So therefore, this is a cost-neutral action as far as we are concerned. We can piggyback on the network architecture that is in place to link the branches and the head office. The desktops, notebooks, etc. which are in use currently can also be utilized, as well as the internet lease line that currently is functioning. However, we would need to look at the hardware requirements, especially since we are looking at implementing this for the CRM function. We would need to equip our sales and customer support agents with smartphones PDAs so that they are able to service our customers when on the move. Mobile POS machines are also an option in order to enable credit or debit card payments. We must also look at the software requirements. Security systems, for example, we will need to have stronger, better firewalls and antivirus software, since we are extending our platform to smartphones and PDAs. We can also look at Salesforce automation softwares, which will enable transactions to take place from remote locations. Finally, we also need to consider other requirements, such as whether we should pilot test adoption of cloud technology. We will also need to revise our IT policies and procedures, train our staff and familiarize them with the technology, as well as have in-house tech support for troubleshooting. Now let's take a look at the experience of other companies in the successful implementation of cloud technology. However, before we move on to the names, let's take a look at some statistics. A study conducted by Gartner Incorporated on insurance company reveals that the sales function as well as customer service and support functions are some of the most popular services that are utilized via cloud by some of the top ranking in insurance companies. To add to this, Accenture Consulting has conducted a study in 2012 and revealed 3 trends that have emerged in the insurance industry as a result of cloud technology. Number 1, real-time data collection from multiple sources, enabling insurance companies to better tailor-make their products and services to suit their customers. Increase leverage on cloud offering to gain agility and enable a test and learn culture. And finally, a shift towards deeper customer engagement. Therefore, our decision to adopt cloud technology for our CRM function seems to be the correct decision. Now let's take a look at some examples. ING Insurance, AXA Insurance, Netflix, an online video retailer, and Etsy, an online intermediary that links buyers and sellers of handmade goods, have all reported productivity, flexibility, business scalability, and cost savings as the key benefits of adopting cloud technology. Now let's quickly run through some of the best practices that can be adopted when managing a cloud environment. Firstly, we must properly screen the cloud service provider prior to contracting with them. Here, a thorough review of the terms and conditions of the contract is essential. Next, we must inquire where the service provider keeps or stores the data. Is it in accordance with the Data Protection Act? We must also review the cloud service provider's security framework, ensure that there's role-based access and password protection. It is essential that we carry out ad hoc security audits on the service provider. We must also ensure availability of a backup option in the event of system failure. And finally, we should review their reporting capabilities and ensure there are analytical, SLA monitoring, usage and downtime, and user trail reporting capabilities available. Moving on to the all-important financial analysis, the table on the top left indicates the estimated benefits, costs, and cash flows for a period of 6 years. It also assumes that the cost of capital is 10%. As highlighted in red, the project becomes cash flow positive in year 3. However, it is not until the 5th year that the project pays back its initial investment. It is actually 4 years and 7 months to be exact. With a positive NPV of 4.38 million, an IRR of 16%, which is 6 percentage points above the 10% cost of capital, and a profitability index of 1.36, this project is feasible, and therefore we should invest in adopting cloud technology. I have also carried out a sensitivity analysis adjusting certain cost and benefit variables, which gives us a picture of both sides of the coin, which will help you in making your final decision. However, this is available in the handout that I have given you separately. Now, looking at the sensitivity analysis, we've looked at 3 scenarios in addition to the base case. In scenario 1, cost of capital is assumed to be 9%. This is based on the relationship that we have with the financial institutions. In scenario 2, we are looking at the initial capital outlay being increased by 1 million in year 0. This is increased from 5 to 6 million. In scenario number 3, initial capital outlay is increased by 2 million to 7 million in year 0, and also there is a 25% decrease in the expected benefits in years 1 to 6. Based on the changes in these variables, let's take a look at the financial indicators that we considered before and what these scenarios throw out in terms of figures. Scenario number 3, as you can see and as highlighted in red, is a worst case scenario or an extreme case, which makes this project not viable financially. However, the other scenarios with positive NPVs and IRRs in above the cost of capital and profitability indexes of above 1 indicate that this project, in a case which is more extreme than the base case, could still be financially viable, which means that we should consider investing in such a project. Conclusions and recommendations. Cloud computing is the next key differentiator in the already crowded insurance industry. Key benefits include savings on costs, greater business scalability, improved functionality, and environmentally friendly computing concept. The cost-benefit analysis illustrated that the project is financially viable. Therefore, based on these industry trends, benefits, and financial feasibility, it is recommended that Prosperity Insurance adopt cloud computing technology for its CRM function. The key learnings: cloud technology is more popular and in use than first assumed, both by individuals as well as corporates. It has the potential to revolutionize the way businesses operate. It gives them a competitive advantage. The benefits received are far greater than the obvious increased agility and reduced costs. Data Protection Acts and other related legislation have a profound influence on the adoption of cloud technology. A considerable number of players in the insurance industry have already adopted the technology. Contracting with a cloud service provider does not mean that you can forget about the IT function. There is a greater responsibility that lies on the IT department to ensure that the cloud service provider holds up his end of the agreement. And finally, cloud service providers must be selected with great care and emphasis on the security framework in place to ensure information is secure and privacy is maintained. A list of references for further research if required. Thank you.